Few places in America have the distinction of being founded by European royalty, but New Braunfels, Texas is one such place. Possessing a storied past ripe with tales of hard work, spots, and success, this tight-knit German community is certainly unique.
German people like to work.
And I think a lot of people have this disconnect because they think like the founding guys were building a wall. No, they were building bridges. Come on, get over here.
The innovations are noteworthy. New Braunfels is home to several firsts in the state, including the first manufacturer of paper, the first brewery, the first German newspaper, and the first uphill water coaster in the world.
We've got so many amenities. We've got, the best water park in the world. We've got festivals you wouldn't believe. We've got green, we've got shopping, we've got so much here. Other towns I've been to the same size don't compare.
We've got the resources.
The quality of life is great.
People in New Braunfels have always insisted on quality.
They would take risks. I mean, we've had some things that probably didn't work out so well, like the guy who wanted to make turpentine out of cedar trees. It didn't work out so well.
Ingenuity has always been the staple. Many of the oldest businesses in Texas can also be found here, like Henny Hardware, Nagelin's Bakery, and Green Hall.
They had a very common denominator, and that is their work ethic. Some of these businesses have lasted so long is because they enjoy their work.
And they were determined to make a go of it.
Ingenuity has always been the staple. Gebhardt's famous chili powder was developed in the back of the Phoenix Saloon, what he originally deemed Tampico dust, and a little sausage-making competition back in the 60s has grown into the mammoth celebration of all things German that today we call Wurstfest.
It's big, a German Disneyland in a small town. People will turn anything into a dance floor here because you just can't sit still when that fun music is playing.
Funded by the Adelsverein Immigration Company, early settlers not only carved out a life from the wilderness, but they brought with them their education and skills, steeped from a culture with centuries of refinement.
They came from a city that was already 600 years old.
This is going to work, this is going to grow. We got the water, we got the land, we got the beauty, we got everything going for us. Let's hit it. Part of the family came over with Prince Psalms.
I believe it was 1846.
About 1860, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Traces back to 1869.
1898.
1928.
1966.
In 93.
They left Antwerp, Belgium, and the ship's captain had overloaded the ship, and the ship turned over.
They walked up from Indianola, of course.
They're probably tired of walking by then. So they said, that's it, we're done. Here's a river.
From horse-drawn wagons to hundreds of horsepower, transportation has always been critical to commerce. A giant leap forward occurred in 1880 when steam locomotives arrived on a wooden bridge over the Guadalupe River.
The early settlers were pretty well locked in and they needed a way to get away if they wanted to get away. The railroad gave them that opportunity.
An engineering marvel for its time, the construction of the 640-foot Whipple Truss Faust Bridge came about in 1887. Today, it's one of the few remaining bridges of this type in the country.
You could go to San Antonio, it might take you all day, but
It took you about 4 hours.
to go to San Antonio by car.
That was a big trip when we went to San Antonio.
1905 witnessed the arrival of the automobile to New Braunfels, though few citizens felt this passing fad would ever catch on. To regulate those early leadfoots, the city passed its first speed limit, a teeth-clenching 8 miles an hour.
At one time in the late 40s, I remember 12 different car dealerships in town. It was a tough business, I will say that. About the 1st of October is when new models came out, and you'd go and you'd hide the cars. We'd go down there at 1 o'clock in the morning and unload so that people couldn't see. Now everybody sneaks pictures and they tell about new models coming and so forth. So all that hoopla and excitement is gone.
The very first challenge was a road, and in actuality 3009 was put in because of the caverns.
337 didn't go anywhere. It was like a drag strip.
Well, I remember that academy where we lived on 600 block when they put the sewers in. Yeah.
Now there's a moment.
By the 1920s, Comal County had established itself as a manufacturing and shipping center for textiles, garments, flour, and construction materials, though agriculture had been essential since day one.
Going all the way back to the reason settlers came here was clean, fresh water, and then agriculture took off.
In 1845, they had their town lot, then they had an outside lot to where they would farm, so you had to be self-sufficient.
They were growing their own crops. They didn't import any food. If you wanted food, you had to grow it.
The ranching was a big part of family earnings, kind of a way of life.
Everybody had a garden. On academy, we had a cow for milk.
Corn and cotton became money crops, while cattle ranching was big business. As agricultural production expanded, so too did the scale of industry. And German craftsmanship quickly became synonymous with outstanding quality.
When we first produced our wine, we produced 50 cases. As of this year, we're producing 10,000 cases a year. My parents bought this property in the 1970s as a getaway and originally belonged to the Herberlin family. We realized that we are sitting on a bit of New Braunfels history. And I tell people I'm a farmer first. I love the smell of the dirt. You just kind of put your fingers in it and it feels good.
In 1853, the first U.S. patent for wire fencing was issued to local businessman William Merriweather. This benchmark was likely publicized in the newly established New Braunfelser Zeitung by famed botanist and paper editor Ferdinand Linheimer. Not to let a money-making opportunity go to waste, William Seacatz, an enterprising captain in the Confederate Army, managed the plant that produced the precious saltpeter used in gunpowder, quarried from the bat guano found in Landa Park.
There was a general downturn in agriculture when manufacturing came along, because now you were working only from 7 to 7. You weren't, agriculture is round the clock. When manufacturing came in, our population shifted. The LCRA building once powered all of San Antonio.
Though it would be twice washed away by floods, the Torrey Mill became the first mill in New Braunfels in 1848. Gins and mills subsequently dominated the economic landscape for nearly 150 years. The early pioneers of industry included names like Holkamp, Kester, Hoffman, Landa, and Dittlinger, whose mills would later become ADM and Servtex.
Tractors got bigger and farms got smaller, and New Braunfels became a mill town.
The largest of the New Braunfels mills was Mission Valley. Chartered in 1923, it was a behemoth of more than 500,000 square feet, sitting on over 40 acres. During its heyday, the mill did more than $70 million in sales annually.
The mill used to be the largest employer. Howard McKenna had a lot of savvy in running mills.
He saw a population that would walk to work in the morning and stay there till they were done and then go home. And
nobody punched a card. You went home when your work was finished.
I got to know Mr. McKenna well. I had a lot of respect for him. So I stayed with them from 66 through 74, I think it was. I wouldn't have traded that period of my life for anything.
The modern era of manufacturing looks markedly different from the jungle Steinbeck wrote about more than a century ago. By 1982, a handful of manufacturers employed almost 30% of the labor force in Comal County. For a time, the production of construction materials, textiles, and clothing, in addition to the milling of wheat and corn, were the mainstays of the industrial sector. Though these numbers would drop drastically due to increased competition overseas, adaptive companies would remain like Dean Word Construction, TXI, Cemex, who invested nearly $250 million to expand their plant in 2008, and the undeniably delicious New Braunfels Smokehouse.
Smoked meats and sausage are pretty much synonymous with the German community. Basically started in 1945, and our processing facility is still in the same building in which it was originally established. That was the New Braunfels Brewing Company. It was built in about 1916. Actually made beer up until probably Prohibition, when that all came about. And they used to make a near beer called Busto, and they got caught making some with a little bit more than what it was supposed to have in it. Today, of course, we've got about 10,000 square feet of cold storage facility. We employ about 140 people full-time. This year we'll process 4.5 million pounds of meat. You know, last year we had one day when we shipped right at 15,000 parcels in one day's time. And, you know, that's about 8 trailer truck loads full of packages.
Manufacturing is a very basic money producer. Tourism, of course, has become our manufacturer, but that doesn't preclude having manufacturing as another source. The broader base you can have, the better off you are.
In its initial 50 years, a wellspring of service and retail businesses sprang up to fill the wants and needs of consumers. Companies like Henny Hardware, Nagelin's Bakery, Ludwig's Furniture, which later became Johnson Furniture, and Germania Farmers Insurance.
The company was formed in 1889. I mean, we were the best thing since whipped butter for people out in the rural area at one time around here. If you pay that small loss for the premium, you're going to have the big loss covered. When my house burned down in 2006, an accidental electric fire, and my wife and I barely got out alive. The house was on fire and we got out with the clothes on our back. Thank goodness we had insurance.
Certain citizens had a significant impact on politics, even reaching outside of New Braunfels.
George Pfeiffer, who was my great-grandfather, he was appointed by the governor to the board of directors of A&M College, and he decided to run for the state senate. Interesting thing that he got into over there was the building of the new state capitol, but they wanted to make it out of white Georgia marble. And being a tight-fisted German merchant, he knew that there was a very beautiful and durable material at Burnet, Texas, so he led the fight and they made the Capitol out of red Texas granite. And ever since then, every state building in Austin has to be built out of red granite.
The 20th century saw another wave of long-standing businesses take hold, such as Eden Home Retirement Center in 1910 and Deppenschmidt Funeral Home in 1923.
The Phoenix Saloon used to be Schmidt's dry goods store.
If you could get your money up on the bar, you could buy a beer.
My dad worked for Braunfels Laundry, telling us that he had it made because he had a job now. He didn't have to report on time. He was sort of a manager, and he had to only work from 7 to 5, 5 days a week, and a half a day on Saturday.
And he made?
And we asked him, and what is your salary? He said, $15 a week. And when I went in the insurance business, the hours were from sunup till you sold. It was 10 o'clock, you sold. And the day I retire, you will attend my funeral.
Yeah, we're buying them that new desk, the one with the handles that just pop out the side. We just flip the top open, roll them in. You know, saves us on time.
We wouldn't have some of these employers that we have in town today, so that our children and grandchildren now have the opportunity to stay here. Once they go off and get more education, they used to have to stay where they were. There was no opportunity to move back.
And I think today we're blessed that we have a growing and thriving community, provided for quality jobs to keep our young people here.
Handing somebody the keys to their very first house is by far my favorite thing. The real estate market here is great. I came back because I needed a job, but I stayed because I loved it. All the things I hated about a small town growing up, I loved as a grown-up. It's very easy to get involved. We have a lot of opportunities for young professionals to make a name for themselves and build their businesses and be successful.
And in 2001, when the economy crashed and all dot-coms crashed, Sprint laid me off and then went out and got a credit card at Best Buy and bought myself a Blueberry iMac and started up Ammo Advertising to pay our bills. Ammo Advertising is a full-service ad agency. If you watch Mad Men, that's us with the drinking. The plan was always to start the business, save up and buy a house in Austin and go back to Austin. And the longer we lived here, I would say within 6 months of living here, we said, no, we're gonna stay here. I thought this would be a suburbish kind of town and that we would be getting business out of Austin and San Antonio. It hasn't been the case. I'm really thankful for that because I don't like to drive on I-35.
You got to specialize. If you don't specialize, you're lost. I was one of the first real estate companies in the area to franchise. Family owned and operated businesses is the backbone of this community. My dad started his insurance and real estate business in 1949. And now today, my daughter Tracy, the third generation, is running that company. That's pretty cool.
Downtown New Braunfels became the heart of the community, and happily enough is in the process of revitalization, with businesses like Seacat's Opera House, the Phoenix Saloon, and McAdoo's Restaurant. While other large conglomerates like Great American Products, Walmart Distribution Center, and HD Supply now call New Braunfels home. The specialization of services led to important advances in healthcare. Dr. Theodore Kester was the first physician in New Braunfels, arriving with the founders in 1845. Though many claimed Kester buried most of his patients, even going so far as to nickname the cemetery Kester's Plantation, the notion that healthcare was critical to a developing community eventually prevailed.
The original medical care that was provided here started back in 1845 in an old German Protestant church that's located where First Protestant Church is located today.
Not surprising then that in 1892, the New Braunfelser Krankenhaus, or sick house, was erected. Staffed by 3 sisters of the Charity of the Incarnate Word, the Krankenhaus contained the city's first X-ray and served as a hospital until 1953.
Well, my father was a doctor here at the old New Braunfels Krankenhaus. He had done a surgery residency as much as they offered in 1924.
My grandfather was one of the first dentists in town. You know, he was paid in chickens and eggs and possibly sausage. And
I was the only general surgeon practicing full-time in New Braunfels at that time in 1962.
Seeing the need to keep his workforce at the Mission Valley Mill healthy and productive, businessmen Howard McKenna and Alfred Liebscher led a fundraising effort in 1953 to build the official New Braunfels Hospital on a park across the river in Komalstadt.
Howard, or Mac as everybody knew him, was really the energy behind the building of the hospital.
When they opened the new hospital back in 1953, it was a 40-bed hospital. There were 7 physicians that were on staff at that time. Today we have 130 physicians that are on our medical staff. We have close to 700 employees.
And New Braunfels had an LVN school. It was associated with New Braunfels Hospital and New Braunfels Independent School District.
The New Braunfels Hospital changed its name to McKenna Memorial Hospital upon Howard McKenna's passing. And in 2008, Christa Santa Rosa acquired McKenna to expand medical offerings locally and stop the costly outmigration of services.
We believe that people, if they have the opportunity to get high-quality health care closer to home, that's what they want to do.
For such a long time, we've had leakage of medical leave in our area. Now we have an opportunity to capture that medical where it doesn't leave.
And with the development that you see Christa Santa Rosa, New Braunfels undertaking, with the work that Resolute is undertaking to clinically integrate the community, I think we'll see health and healthcare become one of the most important industries in our community.
Nearly a century ago, the Greater New Braunfels Chamber of Commerce was formed to maximize the entrepreneurial efforts of the business community.
It's got a long history here. Been in New Braunfels since 1919.
Oh, the New Braunfels Chamber is an incredible organization, and I'm not just saying that.
I belong to the Chamber, of course.
The Chamber was always real good to us.
The community works together, and whenever there's a problem, we solve it.
One of the more notable accomplishments occurred in 1936, when Pete Nowotny and the Junior Chamber successfully negotiated the sale of land apart to the city for $80,000. A week after the bonds were issued and the purchase completed, 1,000 volunteer citizens showed up with tools and trucks in hand to clean up the beloved park.
So what separates New Braunfels from other communities is the volunteers that we have here.
If you become involved in it and give to this town, it gives back to you.
That's how I recharge my batteries, is being involved and giving back to others, and that keeps me happy, which happy people are productive people.
If you want to be successful in our region, not just in our community, engaging with the Chamber of Commerce as an essential element to your business plan.
A railroad baron of Rockefeller fame laid a special track in 1897, taking tourists from San Antonio to Landa Park, laying the foundation of the New Braunfels tourism industry as we know it today. People quickly began to see the beauty of the Comal River. Places like Camp Warnicki thrived, renting out space to adventurous families for $8 a week.
Tourism industry became very important.
So a lot of people that come to visit know New Braunfels for its water aspects. And so that sort of became our brand.
While the roots of Green's Americana past lie in agriculture, its branches have evolved into a mecca for tourism.
Yeah, we stumbled across the dance hall in 1975, and we didn't spend a whole lot on interior design.
In 1872, Henry Green began to build his cotton empire on 6,000 acres of land. Henry's credited for making the longest trail ride in American history. Green had a bank, post office, school, general store, lumber yard, grist mill, saloon, and cotton gin. It even had access to 2 railways for shipping cotton bales.
As that developed, he built the hall as a place for all his guys to hang out. Next thing you know, it was all over. Great Depression happened, late 20s, and the boll weevil showed up. Green went on hard times and became Mossy Manos a ghost town.
Green almost died on a vine.
Even when I was in school, you could go to Green Hall. They had dime long necks. So for like $3, you were 30 beers in. It's a good place to go.
Thankfully, this village is now a nationally registered historic district, where you can dine in the old grist mill under the iconic water tower, or boogie on down to live music at the oldest continuous dance hall in Texas, Green Hall.
A lot of that fed off of the George Strait success of his career, because it got the attention of filmmakers and other people in the music business. People wanted to do commercials. Travolta came.
Lil Richard's been here, Hootie and the Blowfish. So it's kind of evolved a little bit.
It's just that connection that people get with what's been here before.
Future's great. Just try to not mess it up.
Several historic hotels can still be enjoyed today, like the 1853 Schmitz, the 1889 Prince Solms Inn, the 1929 Faust Hotel, and the Victorian Green Mansion Inn. The county grew rapidly after World War II and boomed after 1970, leading to the creation of resorts like T-Bar M that began life as the New Braunfels Country Club and the John Newcomb Tennis Ranch, which used to be a working dude ranch hosting cowboys and city slickers alike.
There was the founding of our community with Prince Solms and Herman Seeley and all the folks we hear about and read about in history books that kicked off this community in the right way. In the early 1960s, there was also a group of leaders in town that saw that this community and the state really was at a crossroads. You could remain an agrarian-based society, or you could embrace a 20th century future at the time. They determined that in order to do that, they needed to have a diverse number of industries. They wanted to promote our unique German heritage as a tourism draw.
With 100 people in attendance in 1810, the Munich Oktoberfest began life as a wedding anniversary for the Prince of Bavaria. This bit of history provided the inspiration for Ed Grist in 1961, the local legend behind this 10-day salute to sausage.
Auslander, Daddy came into town and found the things that most people in town took for granted to be very interesting and very unique.
It was created for the purpose of bringing visitors to New Braunfels in the off-season.
We've got sausage makers, we've got beer distributors. Let's get them together for them to compare their recipes. Basically, have a party.
Why don't we have a little competition? We'll call it Wurstfest. You know, one guy thinking out of the box and
found some sort of plant, I believe, from Hawaii that produced these big seed pods that kind of resembled a sausage. So we started having sausage trees. You have to sort of have a hook, I guess.
In fact, the Chamber administered the festival for its first 25 years. So the current executive director of Wurstfest, Suzanne Herbelin, she worked at the Chamber.
We estimate our attendance to be an average of about 100,000. It became much more popular than they ever dreamed. I think those men never had any idea what it would grow into today. It says a tremendous amount about the community when you stop and consider the number of people that are involved.
You've got the Opas, who definitely get to play, but it's only after they've volunteered countless hours running that event.
to think of that somebody would work that hard and then say, oh, that was fun, and let's give all the money away and let's go do it again next year. I mean, it's kind of insane, but that's the way we're wired here.
And that's what this festival is about, hard work and celebration, being a little German for a little while.
1964 marked the opening of the geological treasure known as Natural Bridge Caverns.
The visitor center that was being built was not finished at the time. So I can still remember we put up a tent that was actually belonged to Devon Schmidt Funeral Home, and that's what we operated from.
Seeing the benefit of compounding tourism efforts, the Wiest family opened the Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch next door in 1984.
It probably took a little over 2 years. My husband did the bulldozing, for the roads. We had to put in the fences. We had to look around for animals.
We have so many things in this town that are national quality. We have Schlitterbahn that wins Best Water Park, and I think they've won it for 74 years in a row.
Schlitterbahn had a humble beginning in 1979 when it opened with just 4 water slides. Bob and Billy Henry purchased the 40-acre Landa Resort and the 25-acre Camp Warneke, slowly transforming the park into what exists today.
So Dad went from being a certified public accountant to being a laborer and a builder of rooms and a builder of rides. Myself, my brother, and sister all followed, and we decided that the only way we could compete with or create a new attraction was to build something that was riverish.
Among the numerous firsts that Schlitterbahn can boast are actually coining the term water park, inventing a continuous surfing ride, and creating the world's longest water park ride, the Falls, earning the golden ticket for Best Water Park Ride in 2012.
Our projects have been highlighted in over 1,000 parks around the world today. I remember years ago we were in a meeting and we had way too many customers. And we said, well, what can we do about all these customers? And my brother and I looked at each other and said, well, it seems like a simple solution, raise the price. And get the price high enough to where people go away. My mother sat at the end of the table, and I remember very, very distinctly her saying, boys, you might want to remember who got you here. And who got us here was our guests, our customers, and the Henrys know that.
Since 1979, tourists wanting a relaxing float down the river have been served by tubing outfitters like Rock and R, while a 70-acre water sports paradise on Interstate 35 called Texas Ski Ranch opened its doors in 2001 to deliver more high-octane thrills and spills. Water has been a constant source of commerce for this community since Prince Solm staked his claim back in 1845. But perhaps adaptation is the real beauty of New Braunfels. Through the ever-changing landscape of expansion, it has maintained true to its roots, whether by the actions of dedicated citizens more than a century ago or just a few days ago.
No question that we're much better off now.
We're always looking around and trying to figure out what can happen next.
The economy New Braunfels has is strong. I mean, for a town this size, we've got a lot here. And people want to come to New Braunfels. They want to be here, whether it's for tourism, for businesses to live. People want to be here because what other town this size has got what we have? Rivers, water parks, music, shopping, we have everything.
We're going to another level.
The face of New Braunfels is changing, but not the culture.
I am very proud of New Braunfels because of that.
You can't lock the door and throw the key away.
The Vera Mende project, planned development community where it's going to be medical and colleges and retail and housing.
And that's going to be tremendously important.
Our community will literally grow by 1/3.
And that's going to bring a lot of jobs.
Then Resolute Health, through the Vanguard system, discovered that this was the place they wanted to put their prototype health system in the whole nation.
There's something unique and special about New Braunfels. It's a community that's ready to embrace change for the better. As we're able to measure and share the quality of the care that exists in this community, that we'll begin to see folks treat our area and our community more as a medical destination, which is what it deserves to be.
New Braunfels is still making waves even today, whether by being named America's favorite farmers market or its #1 water park. While there will nonetheless continue to be torrents in the river, the citizens here always manage to find a way to navigate the waterways together.
I remember when we had to buy poll tax to vote.
Oh, God.
Yes.
That's like a zillion years ago.
Yeah, but you had to buy. Poll tax to vote.
Here in New Braunfels, you had a poll tax? Because I didn't know that. See, I learned something again. You paid to vote?
Yeah. Yeah. All kinds of things like that. Oh, yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.